Hi, and welcome to Game & Read.
It's our second installment of the Chronicles of Ni No Narnia. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go watch our first video from last week where we talk about our introduction to the Chronicles of Narnia meets Ni No Kuni, The Wrath of the White Witch. So this is the second of 4 videos, and we're super excited to venture on.
For this week, I read The Horse and His Boy, the third book in the Chronicles of Narnia 7-book series. And in this book, it doesn't center on any of the siblings we are used to knowing about from...
So they make an appearance.
No, they do, but they're not the main characters. In it is the main character, this boy Shasta, who's grown up in the country of Calormen, something like that, which is south of Narnia across this big desert. It's very much derived from a mix of Middle Eastern tropes and stereotypes.
Which we will talk about.
Maybe a little bit of Turkish stuff too, Islam in general, kind of. And he grows up there, and then he meets this talking horse, and he finds out he's not actually Calormen. He is of one of the northern countries, which are Narnia or Archenland, which is another neighboring country. And this horse, who is a talking Narnian horse, is like, hey, we should run away together and go to the place we're actually from. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. So they book it. They're crossing through the desert. They meet up with a runaway from Calormen as well, who is a noble lady who is betrothed, didn't want to get married. They're all hanging out together. Her name's Arvis. And then they kind of wind up in this big oncoming battle that Calormen is planning, and they have this big destiny going on. I'm not going to say every little detail, but basically things that are very Narnia-esque happen. There's this destiny, Aslan's in there, there's a battle, things are happy at the end. That's the general gist of it. So that's what I read this week. I also started Prince Caspian, which is book number 4, but not very far in that yet.
I have continued to play Ni No Kuni. I almost called it Ni No Narnia. That's what we're doing. I have continued to play Ni No Kuni. I'm really enjoying this game. It's really fun. I think I've clocked about 13 hours at this point.
Oh, yes.
So I am forging ahead. I stopped Old Smoky from erupting. I dealt with all the shenanigans in Castaway Cove.
Old Smoky's a volcano.
Oh yeah, Old Smoky's a volcano.
That person was so mad they were about to erupt. They were real Old Smoky.
And I stopped them with a rock. So I went to Castaway Cove, did some shenanigans, got on a ship, tried to kill Shadar. Did not work.
Shadar, the evil
alert.
genie.
I got to Fairyland and I saved Mummy's tummy. That was weird. That's another...
Mother of all fairies. You have to go inside her to stop some stuff.
Yep. So that was super fun. I made it through all of that. I traversed the high seas. I got to Hamlin. I am currently dealing with things in Hamlin, which is the pig city, kind of. I'm not going to give anything away right now.
Mixed in with a little bit of time travel.
A lot of bit of time travel. I'm back in time. And I picked up a new party member. His name is Swain. He's like uber scruff. I figured out his story, which I won't share yet, but so that is where I am. It's super fun, lots of fun, still really enjoying it, though things are getting really hard.
Aw. Anyway,
so that's where I am in Ni No Kuni.
So that's where we're at with going through this fairly lengthy game and the 7 books for this week. Now we're going to go on to what we'll be discussing this week, trying to mix up what we did last time with what we did last time. This week, I'm going to be talking a little bit about race and ethnicity and skin tone as it's represented in Ni No Kuni and Chronicles of Narnia, specifically in The Horse and His Boy.
And I'll be talking about gender in both The Horse and His Boy and in Ni No Kuni.
Yes, so starting with Narnia, The Horse and His Boy, it takes place in this country that we hadn't really been introduced yet. It's Calormen, whatever. It's very much inherently based on Middle Eastern Islamic cultures, and very specifically more on the tropes and stereotypes of those cultures. In Calormen, people wear very long beards, turbans, curly shoes, used curved scimitars, and have a darker complexion than the Narnians and Archenlanders, who are depicted in the illustrations as being very fair-skinned. And I feel bad because I do really like this story, and I think it's an exciting book. Like, the actions that Shasta takes to reach his destiny are exciting. It's just there's this whole side thing going on that ends up just feeling very kind of racist. And when I get into the details of that, it really comes down to the Calormans are depicted as a very kind of conquering, warlike group. There's not a lot of depth to them past a couple of side notes, like you learn that they have a rich history of storytelling. That's interesting. But the main focus on them through most of the characters you see who are Calormen are very warlike. They hate the Narnians. They think Aslan's a demon. Aslan also represents Christ, so you can add in the difference of religion there. And it ends up just feeling very like C.S. Lewis decided, you know what, I'm gonna make these Islam-type people who worship a different god really kind of pure evil in a state kind of system. The main antagonist, who is a prince of the Calormen people, he wants to marry, not Lucy, Susan. He wants to marry Susan, and he tries to force her into it, and when he gets, shooed away and they run off from the main city, he's like, I'm gonna raise an army and take him down, and there's no redeeming qualities or complexities to the Calormen people.
And he's turned into an ass. Like a donkey.
At the end of the book, he gets his comeuppance, he gets turned into a donkey, and he gets turned back into a human, but he can't go outside of 10 miles from his main city. So he gets his, Christly comeuppance because Aslan is the one who curses him with that. And it all just comes down to a lot of stereotypes and tropes based around this group of people. I guess all of Islam and the Middle East, really. That's a huge, diverse group of people. But C.S. Lewis seems to have taken just bits and pieces from different things and just kind of shoved them all into this kind of evil brown people, which is not cool.
Soup.
Yeah. So, if not for that, I would like this book a lot more.
It's a way better story than the other two that we've read so far.
It's so much more exciting than Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe and Magician's Nephew. Like, there's battles, there's like this big race against time, it's a big journey, and I thought it was really interesting, and there's this big destiny, which, even if you don't like Aslan as a character too much, he plays a big part in it, and I actually like that a lot. It's just the depictions of this evil group of people being so black and white is just, I can't get around it, and I don't like this book for that reason. So that's most of what I have to say on it. I guess, the one redeeming character they have of Calormen descent is Aravis, who ends up becoming this friendly interest, and then at the end ends up marrying Shasta, like when they're adults. And she is the only person who really brings any complexity to the Calormen society. They depict her as a storyteller, and having learned that as like a trait of her people. And that was interesting for the most part. She was a noble who ran away because she didn't want to be in an arranged marriage, which is another stereotype that he kind of adds in there, when there are definitely arranged marriages of, all northern and European monarchies.
Arranged marriage is not specific.
Yeah, but in Narnia, they get to love whoever you want. I don't know. Anyway, she brings some complexity to the table, just having been a Calormen character who is not evil and hateable and all that. Other than that, it's just kind of a big, they're all terrible and big slaveholders and hate Narnia and, all goodly northern things. Now, regarding Ni No Kuni and race and skin tone and whatever you want to call it, ethnicity, there is a decent amount of very just kind of subtle diversity happening in Ni No Kuni. A lot of the background characters are of different skin tones. Not everyone is super white, not everyone is super this or this.
Not everyone's human either.
No, yeah, there's some humanoid characters who you interact with who aren't humans. And so it very much takes the kind of safe route where it's like, look, nobody is a big trope or stereotype of any analogous race in our world. and that's a much more agreeable stance. There are a couple of things in that Esther, who is one of the 3 player-controlled characters, she is a very white person, and her dad, who you meet, who's one of the great sages of this land, is a very dark-skinned man.
They live in Al Mamoon, which is the desert town.
They live in the desert city of this continent, and for whatever reason, she is like ivory white. Dad is a very dark-skinned man. They never say like adopted or otherwise, and obviously you can be related without having the same skin tone. It's just weird that they chose to have such a change in like, okay, you've got this guy and then his daughter is like snow. It's just odd. Additionally, I can make the argument that having all three playable characters, and there's no options to change them or anything, they're all white, and therefore it does lack any sort of choice in, what your character could be like, as well as any diversity of the playable characters themselves. And while I'm a white man and don't have any qualms about playing a white character, there are people out there who are like, sometimes I want to play a character who I can relate to, especially when you're getting really in depth with it over 30 plus hours. And not having any sort of customizable thing, even with regards to like slight skin tone changes, can be disheartening, especially when it's starting to become more prevalent in certain games, even like Pokemon. Other than that, it's really not a very big offender in Ni No Kuni. I wouldn't chastise it in any way, shape, or form for its lack of inclusivity, other than just saying, maybe a playable character or a character customizer or something like that would be helpful. That might be difficult given the fact that they have a lot of animations, but there could have been something done, I think. But overall, it's really not that big of an issue in Ni No Kuni.
So I want to talk about gender in both The Horse and His Boy and Ni No Kuni. The Horse and His Boy, Peter's already talked about the main character, Shasta, who is male, and Aravis, who is a badass lady. I mean, she is this girl who doesn't want to be in this arranged marriage with this old man, and so she, of her own cunning and skill, runs away and, escapes and meets up with Shasta, which is how they get on, and she is strong and she is fairly independent and she is very smart. She has this whole plan where she runs into another woman she knows in the city when she's trying to be inconspicuous, and so has to figure out her way out of that situation, which is great. However, I have some really big problems with how gender is portrayed in The Horse and His Boy when it comes to women. So Aravis, like I said, is a really great character. She is very strong. She is an exceptional woman, as are Lucy and Susan, who we know from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They are all exceptional women. That's it. There are a few other women that pop up kind of in the background. Like I said, Aravis's friend is there, but she is a very stereotypical frilly, only cares about banquets and dresses and royalty, and is very frilly, kind of stereotypical feminine girl. And there's a female horse who
is a horse.
And that's it. Those are all the women that we meet in The Horse and His Boy. So I first struggled with that, just a total lack of female characters. The other problem is that in those female characters that are important, specifically Aravis, Lucy, and Susan, they are not allowed to be full characters. What I mean by that is that Aravis is a really important character and is really crucial for things to go forward in the story, but she is conveniently injured right before battle and is healing at the hermit's house for the entirety of the battle. So she doesn't even get to go and be there and help warn the king and castle and help defend the country. No, she has to go stay at the hermit's house with the horses and get better, which it ends up not even being an injury that is a real injury. Anyway, she's taken out. So C.S. Lewis takes her out of play. Susan and Lucy are also not allowed to be full characters. Lucy is said that she is a good archer.
Yes.
Sorry, good. What is that thing that shoots arrows? She is a good archer, and she's a great in battle, and she's as good as a man, or at least as a boy.
That's a direct quote.
That's a direct quote from the book that I read. That made my blood boil. And you don't even see her in the battle. You don't even read anything about her involvement. She is there. We know she is there, and we get nothing, even though we get Shasta's failure at battle.
And multiple other characters, beheadings and taking out other
Edmund
characters.
is there. We see him, and we don't see anything of Lucy. Susan, of course, stayed behind at Cair Paravel because she's a ladylike lady.
Although they do mention she's a very good archer, but, no, she wouldn't go off and go to war.
No. So I think that is a huge stumbling block in this book, along with the race aspects. I struggle with the depiction of women in The Horse and His Boy. Similarly, I think Ni No Kuni also has the same issue that when it comes to female representation. While there are lots of great background characters that are female, so when you look around, when you're running around in towns and cities and stuff, it's pretty evenly split between men and women in the background, whether they're human or not. You get a pretty good mix. But the women that are important, those exceptional women, are also very few in Ni No Kuni. You have Oliver's mother and Alicia the Sage, but they are passive, at least to the point that I've played.
Me too.
You can't control them. They don't have agency. They are motivation, but they are not agents in the story. So there's that. There is the White Witch, who presumably is female. I'm presuming that the White Witch is female, and she's also kind of in the background. I mean, she's pulling the strings in many ways, but you see glimpses of her through cutscenes. It's nothing significant. And then the only playable character who is female is Esther, and she is cool. I mean, she's a good character, except she is undermined by her outfit. She is from the desert, and she is wearing a skimpy little top and
harem pants.
She's like Jasmine, which also is a problematic outfit, but anyway. So it's impractical. She goes out in battle like that. So she's this great character, except that you are constantly reminded that she is supposed to be a pretty girl. I mean, there's a point in Castaway Cove where they have to wear swimsuits, and Oliver is swimming around, and she comes up onto the dock, and it drove me crazy. She
does like a full twirl.
And she does a twirl, and the camera angle goes from the feet up, like giving her a head to toe, like look, and there's like dreamy music, like, oh, look how pretty she is. And that is just a huge issue for me. So when it comes to gender, I think both Ni No Kuni and The Horse and His Boy really could have done a lot better in representation of strong women, and not just taking away agency of those few women that they have.
So that is all the points we really have to make today. We'll be coming to you next week with episode 3. We'll be reading a couple more books of Narnia and playing more of Ni No Kuni and finding some new topics to discuss within those worlds. Mm-hmm. So you can check out all of our other posts, our first video of Ni No Narnia, everything else we do at gameandread.com.
And you can follow both of us on Twitter. I am at emerge.
And I am at Nerd in the World.
We'll see you next week.